Well, hello and welcome back. Today, I think just a quick run through of some houseplant tips. Now, I mentioned last time when I took you for a house tour that the peace lily, the spagulum, likes to tell you when it's dry, and this is a really good example. I've been waiting. I haven't watered her on purpose. Now, she's just gone droopy, just in the last day. So I thought that's perfect. I can show you what she looks like when she's a bit droopy. So now I will take her and give her a really good drink. I've brought my peace lily through into the kitchen because it's the easiest place to look after it, and you can really see how droopy it is. Now I've put it just into a plastic tub. That's a super useful thing because I can keep an eye on it. And at this point, I'm going to water it. Now, what I've got here, just a couple of, they were white vinegar gallon containers, and I've just had them sitting there with water for, about 30 minutes, so it's sort of room temperature, and maybe a little of any chlorine will have come off them. But now I'm going to add the magic solution because it's springtime, so I'm going to start feeding this whenever it needs to have a drink. Now that is basically my rule. So here I have sea salt, which is not a food. It just treats the soil and keeps it really healthy and full of all the little microflora and fauna that we need in our soils. A bit like our version would be keeping our gut healthy with good, rich, probiotics and things. This is like a probiotic for a plant. And here is the actual food that, treating it with the sea salt, allows it then to be in a really good place to take up the nutrients. Okay, so I'm just going to add a good slosh to one of these and then feed it. Let's give it a good shake. Believe me, this stuff smells, well, just quite strong, shall we say. Now, I didn't put a lot in, probably 2 tablespoons. I don't measure. They're sloshes. I would use more of a stronger ratio if it was going out into the garden, but it's not a garden plant, so this one lives inside. Now what I'm going to do is just water all around the inside of its pot, make sure it's full completely, and then just let it seep through. So it's seeping through now, and it just will start filling the bottom of the pot. It starts to come out the bottom, it's getting. The fact that it soaks in really easily is a very good sign that the soil is healthy and it's not water repellent. Now you can see it coming out the bottom. See, it's just going to come out the bottom. Now I'm just going to leave it to sit for a minute, and I'll give it a wee health check while I'm at it. Make sure there are no bugs, and I'll pull out any little scrabby bits. There was a leaf over here I saw that wasn't looking so good, so I'll trim that off. There are a few in there that aren't looking so great. I'll give them a little trim, just tidy it up. Look, there is one little flower, and from that you get the name, which is spagulum, which is to be a spade, and you can see it's a little spade. That's coming from the Latin. And so I'm not actually raising this to be a flowering plant. For me, it's here for the greenery. But if you wanted it to be a flowering plant, you have to change the environment a little bit come spring. So in the winter, this is a plant that you let dry out completely a lot. Just always make sure it's doing this. And it can be in a no plant likes the dark, but it can be in a very low light area. And that will be fine for it in winter. If you want it to flower, then towards the spring, or even actually over the winter, have it in a slightly higher light area. Bright indirect light, always indirect, but brighter, medium light perhaps, and then you will get more flowering. But I'm not interested in the flowering. That's not what I'm here for. Okay, so I'm just going to let that sit while I tidy it up a bit, and if I see any little bits I can pull out. Sometimes, these old dry ones you can just tug and they're ready to give away, and you don't have to trim them. You can just literally pull them out. For me, the whole of my apartment is really quite light, so it gets medium light, I think would be fair to say, where it lives. And I do mist it, especially during the summer. Just walk around with a water bottle, spray bottle on fine mist, and just give it a couple of little mists every yeah, when I think of it really, which is probably every day or two. And that won't hurt it because you're not having it standing in water. Now, can you see if it's absorbing any? I'll just leave it be and I'll trim off that dead leaf. I'm looking for that one. Here it is. I'll just snip it off close to the bottom. And now, you see, you can't really see because it's in the light. Whoops. There we are, that's better. You can see it's got a big brown mark on it, so that one can go. Now I'm having a quick look at this while I'm here, and I will get a cloth and give the leaves a wipe as well. I've just got a microfiber cloth, and I'm just going to dampen it slightly with cool water, and I'm just going to wipe the leaves to clean them, make sure that it's another good chance to look at them, make sure there are no bugs, and see how they're doing. They always like a little bit of a tidy up. The other thing you do with a plant is that you always turn it weekly so that it gets an even amount of light over every part of it. And now I've just got my little spray bottle and I'm just going to mist it. Not a lot, but just enough to give it a little bit of moisture in the air. Now it's sat in there for a while, so it's time that it came out. You can see I can control this because it's in a tub. I can control it. Now it's just going to sit and drain completely. And I wait until it's drained fully. See, I've just been tossing those in there. Yes, I do clean my sink properly afterwards, as if you doubted me. But you see, I've just misted it. It's just got a little bit of moisture around it now, and it's in a good place to go back to its position once it's finished draining. Because the last thing you need for any plant is to have wet feet. Root rot is probably the biggest killer of most plants, but especially indoor plants. Look at that, it's actually perked up just in the few moments that it's had, really, a couple of minutes since it was watered, and you can already see that it's lifting again. Here it is back in its favourite place, and it hasn't completely rehydrated yet, but it will. Now, what I've done then is to turn it round. You see how this one is facing, it's been facing the light, and now I've turned it round so that it's going to have to readjust. So you can see in the time that I've been out this afternoon, since I watered it, that it's perked up completely and it's looking beautiful. That is number one, how to look after your peace lily or spagnophyllum. Now for a couple of my favourites. This one is my beautiful fiddle leaf fig, which when I adjust the contrast here, because it's gone grey and cloudy outside, so the light's not great, but plus I've left it a bit late. You can see it's got this beautiful one new leaf and another one that come in pairs. Aren't they stunning? So this is growing beautifully. I've got it in what is really the best place for probably 90% of plants, and that is bright indirect light. See, even though it is in a north facing, which for the southern hemisphere is the place that you want to be, it's like being southern facing, south facing if you're in the northern hemisphere. It's where the sun is. So these are in a north-facing room, which is, you all know, it's full of light, but they're actually quite protected because there are the big trees behind it to the north, which protects it from sunlight, a lot of direct sunlight, plus the curtains are here, so they're in bright but indirect light, and the sun very rarely, only early morning sun comes in. So that's a good place for them. This little lady palm is also doing exceptionally well, and this little ficus as well. But they could all do with a drink and some food. Feeding through the growth times, which this obviously is, so it can do with some food, and more water while it's growing as well. The same again with the little ficus that's happy when it's reasonably very bright, or as bright as this is, so bright indirect light, and also to be fed when it's growing, which this most certainly is. So feed it monthly when it's growing like that, and test to see if they need watering by literally digging down into the soil and seeing if it's dry. Now this is really dry, so this one definitely does need a drink. This one, no, it doesn't actually. It's wee bit, it's still wee bit damp in there, but it won't hurt it because I'll make sure it drains really well. And this little one is always dry. Yep, that's dry and definitely needs a drink and some food. So here we go, back again, and it's the same thing. Give it a really good drink and then get it well soaked, then let it sit, drawing up as much as it will into the root ball, and then let it drain thoroughly. And in the meantime, I can give it a little wipe. It's not bad. I do keep them pretty well dusted because that helps the plant to stay healthy and they look better. So, in with this incredibly stinky combination. Boy, it pongs. So it's not elegant, but it works beautifully. It's a real 1-2 hit of healthy soil and healthy plant. See the little bubbles coming up? There we go. So it should bubble away quite nicely in there. Drain out into the bottom. I'd like to have one more and then I'll just let it sit. I love the way it drains through. It shows it's a free draining soil, which is perfect. That means that the root ball isn't going to sit in waterlogged soil. It also means that the soil isn't hydrophobic. I mean, it hasn't been allowed to get so dry that it actually repels water, which is the other thing that happens. Now, while it's draining, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a spray, just to moisten the leaves, and particularly these beautiful new ones, just as if it's been out in a light, misty, humid climate, and it will enjoy that because it's draining off really well. And that's what they like. And as you can see, this one is perfectly happy. Couldn't be happier. And here we are, it's the last one for today. It's my Strelitzia bird of paradise plant. And this one has just got this beautiful new leaf. I mean, it's seriously gorgeous. So yes, the soil's dry and it's definitely the growing season. So it's time to make sure that I keep it, nicely watered. Now this one just loves light. You put this plant in the brightest place that you can in your home or your condo or your apartment, because I've just learnt the difference between them. This is in fact a condo, and I always just call it an apartment, but in fact it is a condo because they're all of these are separately owned, so it's not an apartment block. So this, if you need to, you can even put it in direct sunlight. Not cookingly hot, but because not many plants really like that, and when they're in pots it's so difficult to keep the moisture out of them. But if they're out in the garden, yeah, absolutely, they can be in blisteringly hot conditions. They're often used here around things like condos and apartments because they really are tough, and then they have their very large flower that looks like a bird of paradise. Now, to be fair, I am not growing this for its flower. Now, I'm not actually that keen on them. They look wonderful in the garden, I just don't want them in my house. So I'm growing it for its beautiful leaves. I'm just keeping it topped up. Now, this has been facing one way. I'm going to, of course, rotate it. You always rotate your plants about every week if you just keep them turning around a bit and letting them have the light from different places. This will become a big plant, a really big plant if I keep up with the potting. And I'm quite keen on that. I like having them as babies because I know then I've looked after them. Once again, they can do with a bit of misting. Everything really likes a little bit, not a lot. And once again, you water it, you let it sit, let it absorb as much as it wants to, and then drain it super well so there's no water sitting in the pot. And there it is, back where it lives on the table, and this does get quite a lot of bright sunlight. The trees are just a little bit thinner out their side, this, in this angle, and it loves it. It's very happy. When it becomes a big plant, I will put it over here. It already has a place in my head where it's going to go, and it will become a big plant. Right now, it doesn't need repotting. The test to see if it needs repotting is always to have a look at the bottom of any of these plants. Are the roots really pushing out the bottom of the pot? If they are, it's a good time to repot it, but never get to the point where you've over potted it. Only go up another 1 size or 2 sizes of pot, and be careful to use really free draining high quality potting mix so that they are happy. And so there you are. There's your little how to look after your plants for the day. Another day I will talk about the pothos, the devil's ivy, and I have one that I need to repot and to put on a branch, so that will be fun. And of course orchids. I hope you've enjoyed this little glimpse of how I look after my plants, and I will do some others on another day. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up and share it with friends and family. I hope that you've had a lovely day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.